So, hi, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to talk with us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
So I'm Veronica, and I identify as pansexual, which was actually a more recent term that I learned. I feel like, you know, a lot of people know LGBT. We've just recently added the Q and added the plus because there's so many different shades of sexuality in there. And when I found that particular word, I identified most as that because I am attracted to men. I'm attracted to women. I've also been attracted to someone transgender. So like where does that fall within that spectrum of LGBTQ plus? Um, so once I discovered that, I was like, that's perfect because I just fall for a person. I don't parts are parts. You can work with whatever you want, but people are the root of relationships, and that's where I found my comfort and safety within that part of the community.
Yeah. And I love how you explain that. And I just love how people are coming up with terminologies and really defining themselves. Where when I was growing up, it was, either you're a gay or you're a lesbian. Everything else, you were one of those 2. So, like, you heard
Right.
bisexuals, you're like, "Yeah, no, they don't exist. You're just a gay person on the way." You know what I mean?
Right.
And transgender people were just people that were gay that just were extra gay kind of a deal. And it's like it's horrible, it's offensive, but that's way there wasn't words for
Right.
people. And, I just think it's really amazing and beautiful that you can express and in clarity, and it's a real gift because you don't have to figure out, the person that you're talking to. They're like, "Hey, this is me. This is what I like." That's amazing, and I just really, really appreciate and love that kind of, I just love that. I just want to
Thank
say.
you.
Um,
Honest, I feel like there's too much closed-mindedness in this world. Like, you never know who you're going to meet and when, and the kind of connection you're going to have with a person. You could meet somebody totally platonically and then just completely mentally and emotionally click. And like, why are these barriers there to say that you can't be with this person or love this person?
yeah.
Like, who? I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm just so open-minded and I completely love that idea of people just loving people,
Hmm.
but I think it's stupid to put those barriers and walls up because people put it up with a lot of other things, and it's led to a lot of horrific things like wars and violence and tons of other stuff. So why? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And then, honestly, I think, if I could predict the future, when my daughter is our age, my age or your age, I think there are going to be a lot more people identifying as pansexual or, non-binary and fluid. I think that'll be a lot more common, if you allow people to express their range of emotions and interest.
Yeah,
So
I even see it now with people, with younger generations coming up in the world. There's less defining lines that way.
yeah,
I think hopefully I would, love for society, wishful thinking to be at a point where these things don't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like you could be walking down the street with a man or a woman and nobody even gives it a second thought. You know what I mean?
hmm,
So it would be, the most perfect world where everybody got along and everything was rainbows and butterflies. But,
yeah.
it would be nice. Like there's so
Exactly.
much hate and like why? It's silly.
Yeah. So the question that I'm going to ask is the reason that I'm doing this all.
Mhm.
What is your thoughts on the fact that Bergen County does not have an LGBT center, and how does that impact you and or your community? How do you feel that impacts you?
Oh, so I've grown up here my entire life in Bergen County. My home is my great grandmother's home,
Oh,
and I
that's
also work in Bergen County. So we've been here forever. And I think being so close to New York City and, we're a metropolitan area, we're amongst a lot of cities. And as I said, I'm very surprised we actually don't have a center, because there's a lot of people in this area in general that would benefit from having a place to learn about what LGBTQ plus means, explore their sexual identity or preferences or non-preferences, and just to have the knowledge out there and people to talk to that have been in your place and have experience and gone through, years and years of coming out and sharing their experiences with their people, their loved ones, their friends and families. I think having a center where people can go, even if they're just curious or not sure, would be helpful for a lot of people's mental health, because people struggle with this so much. And it leads to a lot of heartbreak in yourself. It leads to a lot of shame, and it leads to, in worst cases, suicide rates for the LGBTQ plus community are very high, because there's such shame put upon it. But if you have a center, hey, this is our place, this is our space, it's safe. You can come here and ask whatever you want and not be judged, and you will find someone here to help you. I feel like that would relieve a lot of young people's, or even older people, anybody. It would help ease a lot of people's mental stress about, being different, or be feeling you have feelings for the same sex or opposite sex, or somebody who doesn't identify as having a specific sex. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Absolutely. So let's say there was a center here. What what would be some of the things that your particular slice of the pie, the rainbow, pansexuals, what do you think would be needed for that population that is not around, that's needed? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think just general knowledge that that slice of the pie exists, because I'm telling you, I'm 35. I maybe have just discovered this, word in the past 5 years, because it's like people would be like, I've had girlfriends, so people are like, oh, you're a lesbian. And I'm like, well, no, because like I'm still I'm attracted to men. And they're like, oh, so you're bi. And I'm like, well, okay, but I've been attracted to someone who's trans. So like, what do you do with that then? And you're like, I just feel like there's not enough knowledge about specific areas of sexuality. And I just feel like, it's going to sound silly, but like pamphlets, or, maybe doing lectures on different types of sexuality, just having a guest speaker or something like that, somebody who identifies that way, to put it out there that there's more than just gay, straight, bi. You can be all of it, and it's okay. And there's nothing wrong with just falling in love with people and dealing with all the other stuff later, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. And if I had had this knowledge when I was 18 years old, I would have been freaking identifying myself as that since then, because it's confusing. Like when you have those feelings for the same sex, and, when you're young and you don't know, you're like, oh my God, does this make me gay? And then you go through this phase of like, oh, I guess I'm just a lesbian, then I should just date girls. And then you have feelings for a man, and you're like, oh no, like, wait, am I straight again? Like, I'm just confused. So I think if there's a center that has knowledge about all the different shades of the rainbow that you can possibly get into, non-binary, queer, trans, pansexual. There's so many things now. And I think just having the knowledge available for anybody to read or discuss with somebody, even like I said, even if you had an anonymous discussion board or anonymous call line or something, if people aren't at that point where they're comfortable talking to somebody face to face, I feel like it would do a lot of good for this community and a lot of good, even for people who don't identify as any of these things, like somebody's parent who wanted to like find some place to learn about their child and what they're saying. I just feel like the more information out there, the better for everybody, you know? It's like trying to put something together without an instruction manual. You're like, it comes out backwards and wrong and upside down, you know? So I feel like the more knowledge, the better, even for people that don't identify in this community at all.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm sure my mom would have loved a pamphlet because I confused the heck out of her. So
So let me ask you one further question before we wrap up. Um, how do you think your life would have been impacted differently if at 18 you were like, hey, here's a pansexual, and you discovered that at 18? How do you think your life would have progressed differently?
I definitely would have told my high school crush that I thought she was spectacular. Um, I feel like I would have been more honest early on. I feel like there wouldn't have been so much hiding and shamefulness about it and nerves, like anxiety, just like I remember my first girlfriend, I remember thinking like, "Oh, I hope my mom is going to be okay with this." And like she was totally fine. She was just like, "Oh, okay. It is, great."
Hmm.
She didn't care at all, but I think that I would have been more self-confident and self-assured at a younger age, having all this information and knowing that it was okay and that other people gone through this and did this and like there were people out there that would accept them and families that you can grow. Like they say, just because your blood doesn't mean your family, you can make your families. And there are so many people out there that are amongst this LGBTQ plus community that need that. And I feel like I was lucky and being accepted by my friends and family for who I was dating and who I was in love with at the time, but not everybody gets that. And I feel like if we make it more common and make it more knowledgeable to people, that it'll be more regular. It'll be the normal. Like we don't have to like
Hmm.
fear or worry or like I had sleepless nights about it when I was younger about what does this mean? Like what am I doing? Like I feel like if it's more accepted at a younger age and there's a place for people to go, people will grow up with less anxiety and fear and eventually lead to a better adult human, which we definitely need in this world, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. And it's funny. I was having a conversation with my husband here earlier, and we were talking about the effects that growing up LGBT, and where we're talking more on a macro sense, like how that impacts our community,
Mhm.
and all the things you were talking about, having that anxiety, having that fear, and all that kind of stuff. That stops you from being your true self, your best life, right?
It
So
does.
how long do you and everyone else is trapped in that anxiety bubble? You know, people from the age of 12 to 20, of just not being able to focus on other, developmental stages in your life, and you're trapped in this bubble of fear and anxiety
Mhm.
and all this kind of stuff for so long. And we're saying, like, just imagine if people didn't have to go through that, how much how much better our society would be as a whole.
Well, I mean, particularly the age very often when kids are struggling with this, it's also the time they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their life and feel
Right.
potential. And if they
It's a rough time
focus,
in
yeah,
general. Then you have this on top, you know?
right,
Yeah,
exactly. And just imagine how many people would have fulfilled so much more, if
I
like,
totally agree. Like when
mm,
I'm 35 now, I feel like I didn't feel completely free and myself till probably my late 20s, where I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna like who I like. I'm gonna date who I date, and I don't give a crap about what anybody says about it. If they don't like it, don't talk to me.
yeah,
But like it takes such a long time, and I'm talking like 28, 29, like later 20s. It takes such a long time to get there in general, just even with being you, like your personality, to not care what anybody else thinks. Or so to have that gender identity crisis on your hands, or like, I'm this, I'm that, I don't know if I'm this, I don't know, I feel like to make it a normal conversation, part of a normal conversation, part of everyday life, and having a center where people can just go, especially around here. We're a very highly populated area,
yeah,
right outside the biggest city, one of the biggest cities in the entire United States, where there's a huge LGBTQ plus community. We should have one. Like
exactly.
it should be here. It should be available.
Yeah, and I'm trying to um, paint the picture for. I mean, this is a project of love for me. There's no one saying you have to do this. I'm doing this out of love for
Mhm.
many different reasons. Like first and primary, to give, if this project doesn't do anything, like I release it and no one watches it and it falls down, I'm still happy because at least I've given whoever participated in this an ability to speak their truth.
Mhm.
And how often do we as a community are allowed to speak our truth, and just say, hey, this is how I feel, and be heard. Uh,
Right.
so at the very least, there's that. But I'm also trying to paint a picture for the people that are looking at it from a societal point, like the people that run the city, and saying this is a key piece that I think people aren't including in our community. So we talk about these issues of being LGBT and anxiety, which gives us a delay in our development because we're so wrapped up in this. All that other stuff that other people are developing is behind. So that's just like an added layer
Mhm.
um of something to deal with society. So if you are dealing with the fact that you're a person of color, if you're dealing with the fact that you have income, you're struggling financially, then add this, you're going to be going down down down
Right.
the ladder.
Like if the world isn't stressful enough, like let's
Exactly.
add another layer.
So this is one way of people who are trying to do those jobs, like working with people who are homeless, working with people who are addicted. Not everyone's going to be LGBT, but for a
Right.
fair portion of all those populations, you have LGBT people, and having an understanding of this key component may be way to help people lift them up, and to
Right.
get
Like
out of
there's
these
centers
situations.
for everyone. There's centers for, women who have been abused. There's centers for uh, children, homeless people. They all have sources, places that they can go for information and help. It's not going to be harmful to anybody for this community to have a source and a place for help and information. And like you said, like the stress level of people in our community, think of how many amazing things would come out of people who didn't have to stress about that.
mm-hmm.
Like
Exactly.
people could be great. Like somebody could be like the next Messiah. I don't know. I have no idea what any of that, but like the next, like genius and think of a way to cure all these amazing things, but they're stressed because they're a man and they're attracting another man, and God forbid that that comes out while they're going to school to do all these creative, crazy things, you know? Like, I feel like if it's just normalized and the stress is taken off and people have a space, a safe space for information and help, it can lead to great things for so many people. And us being a very, very populated county, which I'm sure probably half of the community is part of the spectrum in some way, should have one.
Yeah. And it's like you said, all like everyone else has a place where they can go to. People have their churches, their communities. We're not born from a country. We're not born from, LGBT Asia. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like we're born into other, like sort of like the cuckoo's nest. We're born into other families. We come from them. So we don't have places where that's recording this information. We don't have places where we can go to and feel that security and safety and brotherhood. It just doesn't exist. It has to be created.
right,
So to me, in my mind, this is even more reason why we need an LGBT center. There is, if you're lucky, you have a church that's going to do that. But
right.
that's for as long as you have that reverend, and that reverend, may be there for 6 years, and then boom, it's gone.
Mhm.
There needs to be a dedicated place where people can go to and to exist. Um,
Yeah.
and that's my 2 cents, right?
No, I 100% agree. And I feel like if I had it growing up, I probably would have felt a lot more secure earlier, which would have helped me develop as a person in general much sooner. You know, I'm happy I'm where I am now, but it took a long time to get here. And I feel if that comfort and safety, because my my family's great. They're great about everything, but they had no idea about anything,
Mm.
having to deal with this. Like, honestly, like, thank God my cousin came out first because it took a lot of the heat off me when I said anything. But if it was more acceptable and more knowledgeable and all these things were available earlier, I feel like I would have been in this place in my early 20s, you know?
Yeah. And that would allowed you to be freed up to do other things,
Right.
like focus on
Exactly.
career or focus on,
Right.
your artistic ability or, your genius or whatever,
Exactly.
you can focus on those things. Yeah. So, this is where I ask you if you have any questions or if you have anything to add to the conversation that you want to bring to the conversation. And if not, that's perfectly fine. But I just want to give you a little space for you to, you know, if you have a question or such.
Um, I don't at the moment. I mean, if you need, when your dream comes true and this all happens, I'm totally down to do volunteering or be someone there to speak to people or help people. So just know, like, there's people out there that are willing to participate in helping other people understand and talking to other people. So that's basically just,
Yeah.
I'm here if you need
Well,
anything.
this is for the purpose of this project is to raise awareness, but I'm hoping that an LGBT center is born out of this at some point.
Yeah.
And if I have any part of it, I would absolutely love to have you and other people from all the different parts of the community to have their own space. Whether it's just one person in a group every day or or three, it's important to have a space, and it's not about numbers to me. It's about people need to have
Yeah.
that connection with others.
It would be so nice because I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And I tried hundreds of different types of groups and activities and this, that, the other thing. And as I said, until I got older and I discovered all of these different, terminologies and safe spaces and communities, it wasn't until then that I started feeling more at home. Like I had a family and I had people to relate to. And like I said, my family is great and stuff, but they're they only can reach a maximum level of understanding.
Yeah,
They don't get what it feels like to feel like an outcast and to not get in, like never feel like you're part of something or a part of a home of
yeah,
people who just like, oh, you're just you. You do you. And we love you anyway,
exactly.
Like so I feel like it would be a great space for that.
Yeah, and it's so true what you're saying because I believe most of our community feels that disconnect to everything. And they feel that disconnect of I don't fit anywhere. I feel that in relationships it's a very big struggle. I know it's a struggle between me and my husband to this day. We don't have representation. We didn't have anyone said this is possible or this
Hmm.
is an example. So personally, I look for that and I hope to create that. And it's always about having a space for people can come together and create those bonds and those connections. So that's my wish and that's my dream, because it's to me it's like a great evil that so many of our community are walking around with that feeling inside of their hearts,
Right.
and if that is what I'm dedicating my life to is to eradicate that feeling right there, to have people like us and have not know that experience of not being connected, not understanding love or relationships, and really truly feel that. So that's what I'm dedicating my life to. And I
On
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like when I was told about the project, I was like, I'm so down for this because it's needed. It's much needed. It especially now, like with everything that like you see it on TV now, like you see it
hmm,
on the internet, like more and more people are coming out in whatever way they're coming out. And I feel like if we're gonna help, you know, other people who are feeling this way, there needs to be a space to do it, you know?
yeah,
Whether you're older or younger, middle age, whatever, you're having just fleeting moments of this, at least you have a place where you can learn more. And you know, I was so down when I heard you were trying to do something like this. I was like, yes, somebody finally stepped up. Like I don't have to drive to South Jersey to go to one now.
yeah. Um, well, first I want to say thank you. Just thank you for existing, and
Oh,
thank you for not caving in and hiding away from the world, because you representation and just from you being a part of it is so needed. And it's people will sit there and say, well, men and women are supposed to be like this, but there's a certain beauty in people that are truly themselves and that struggle trying to find who they are and where they fit. And
mm.
I recognize that in you, and it's just I really
Oh,
appreciate you. And I just
thank
want to
you.
say thank you for that.
I
Um,
appreciate you doing this for the community. Like it takes a lot of gusto for somebody to be like, this is my mission, this is what I'm doing, because I want to better the world for other people. Like it's hard.
well, I mean, personally, I've lost clients, which for in my opinion, it was just needless. If there was a center or something like this, they would still be here.
Mhm.
So it's not courage for me. It's just something I have to fight for. You know what I mean? It's just I'm just looking at the next battle.
Yeah.
But that's my personal little tidbit. But so thank you for taking
Mhm.
the time to do this. I really
Yeah, of
appreciate that.
course.
So also, I just want to make sure you understand that this is being recorded
Mhm.
and that this is going to later day be made public and that you give consent.
Yep, you're all
Okay.
good.
And also to let you know that at any given time, if you want to, like, hey, I'm not cool with this, take it down. For any reason or no reason, just reach out to me and I'll do so. Just allow me a reasonable amount of time to do it.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And lastly, you feel comfortable with everything that we talked about? And
Mhm.
okay. All right. So I'm
You
gonna
have my
say,
complete and total consent to
all right.
air
So
my
I'm gonna end the recording now. Not the video, but I'm gonna end the recording.
Okay.